Dying Light is a result of matching together parkour with the deadly pandemic and killer zombies. It's already over 5 years old, but at the time of release was an interesting attempt to bring something new to the zombie genre. Did it succeed? Well, I believe it's still the only parkour based zombie game, so not entirely. But is it a good game which is worth picking up and playing today? The parkour mechanics actually work quite well, and within no time you'll be vaulting over obstacles like a Hollywood movie style thief trying to outrun the LAPD in the back alleys of Los Angeles. The moves look impressive but are surprisingly intuitive and easy to pull off, although there are some sections like climbing towers or navigating the sewers where you may need several attempts to complete a section. I plummeted to my death from towers several times. For much of the first half of the game, you'll be relying on melee weapons and running away as your main defense is against being eaten alive by the zombie hordes. The running away part is an extremely realistic portrayal of how most of us would deal with a zombie pandemic, but the heavy use of melee weapons quickly becomes repetitive and tedious. I made the mistake of completing a lot of side missions early in the game, so by the time I finally managed to get a gun, I would have happily let myself be eaten alive rather than have to fight through another crowd of the undead with a rusty pipe. The melee weapons also gradually become less and less effective as you use them, so you have to occasionally repair them, and each weapon has a limited number of repairs, so even if you find something effective to use, eventually you're going to end up back flailing a wrench at the undead. Things pick up towards the end of the game when you're finally given some guns and a decent amount of ammo. Although the gunplay isn't great, aiming is difficult and the bullet impacts are subpar compared to dedicated first person shooters, although it is satisfying to find a high vantage point and pop those zombie heads open. There's a dynamic day-night cycle with the zombies becoming a lot more aggressive and active during the night, making survival a lot more difficult. The incentive provided by the developer to go out at night is increased experience points, but personally I didn't feel it was worth the difficulty spike. Because of this, I only went out at night when the mission required it, and I easily managed to finish the game. However, I appreciate that others may enjoy this feature, and the realistic day-night cycle does add some extra realism to the game. The locations look great and there's a decent amount of variety within each. However, the game is so long, especially if you're a completionist, that you will become bored retreading the same old areas. A game of this length needs more variety in locations than have been provided here. There are several missions set in the interior of buildings, an old school, Rice's Tower, the sewers, that I really enjoyed and I would have liked to have seen more of. The tension of sneaking around inside the building and not knowing what's around the next corner is a lot more interesting than sprinting past another bridge full of the undead. The plot is relatively interesting, the motivation of the characters is well explained and logical, but none of the actual characters are memorable despite being well acted. I finished the game a week ago and I'm struggling to remember any of them, outside of the main villain, who himself was very two-dimensional.
And what do you offer in return? Your services? Your loyalty?
Dying Light is a decent game that starts out with a lot of promise which it never quite lives up to. The missions and locations quickly become repetitive as you sprint from one part of the map to the other, leaping over masses of zombies and occasionally stopping to stove in a skull with a wrench or a rusty pipe. I made the mistake of completing a lot of side missions at the start before switching to only main story missions as my will to play ebbed away. The graphics are good, the location's solid, the acting is non-offensive and the gameplay is stretched as far as it'll go. So overall it's worth playing, but concentrate on the story missions and only occasionally do a side mission or there's a good chance you won't make it to the end. Overall I would give Dying Light 7 out of 10 and considering its age, suggest you pick it up for $35 or less. It'll keep you amused for 15 to 20 hours, although it may take longer to complete. So if you like zombie games and Mirror's Edge, go out and get it.